真白に謝れ。
Hey guys, welcome to my full series review for Bakuman. I know some of you have been waiting for this review ever since I picked up the box set back in August, and I'm very happy to be finally bringing you guys my thoughts on this series. So let's get started. Bakuman is a manga series that was serialized in Weekly Shonen Jump from 2008 to 2012. It was written by Sugumi Oba with the art provided by Takeshi Obata. Now, these two guys have also worked on Death Note together, which I do have a review for. You can check out on my channel. And the next series that they worked on together was, of course, Bakuman. And man, I have to say, this series is crazy. Now, Bakuman is the story of two 9th graders, Mashiro and Takagi. Now, when Mashiro was younger, he had an uncle who was a manga artist. He used to write manga for Weekly Shonen Jump. And Mashiro himself was an aspiring artist until one day his uncle passed away due to overworking on his manga. Because of this, he lost his ambition to become a manga artist until one day Takagi finds Mashiro's notebook, looks inside and realizes, oh, this guy's a really good artist and I want to become a manga writer, so yo, we should team up. So he meets up with Mashiro and he tells him, he's like, you know what, we should try to make manga. Now, for a while, Mashiro has had this crush on this girl named Azuki, who is in him and Takagi's class. Now, Takagi knows how shy Mashiro is, so one day he tells him that he is going to Azuki's house and he wants him to come with. So they both go down, they meet up with Azuki, and they tell her what their goal is, and Azuki's like, oh, how convenient, I'm going to become a voice actress, so if your guys' manga ever gets animated, I could play the heroine or whatever. And, then, Mashiro kind of proposes to Azuki. You know, they're 14, and he asks her to marry him. So that's a thing. But surprisingly, she has also had a crush on Mashiro for a very long time, and she decides to agree. However, they also decide that they are not going to see each other, not go on any dates or anything until their dreams come true. And their dream is, of course, for Azuki to become a voice actress and voice the heroine in their manga. The only thing is, none of this has actually happened yet, so now Mashiro and Takagi are going to have to create a manga that is successful enough that it gets animated, and Azuki will have to work hard to become a voice actress so she can be in it. And thus begins the crazy, crazy story of Bakuman. This series basically follows the lives of Mashiro and Takagi in the manga industry over a rather long period of time, a lot longer than I thought this series would go for. And I think that actually works to the advantage of this series because, man, this series has to be one of the best manga I have ever read. Now, coming right off of Death Note, Oba and Obata they created a near masterpiece that has amazing writing, amazing art, and this series is even better. Like, it is. The writing in this series is on point. Everything that happens in it is absolutely fantastic. Just so many things happen in this series. If you read Death Note, you know like how much stuff goes on in those 12 volumes. Like it feels like a much longer series, and Bakuman is no different. It feels like I read like 100 volumes of stuff even though it's only 20. So one of the reasons the writing is so good is just how relatable and realistic this manga can sometimes be. Because, you know, Death Note was a crazy supernatural stuff. None of that stuff could ever happen, but Bakuman was actually very, very realistic. Like, all of these things could pretty much happen. I mean, yeah, some of it's a bit crazy. It is a Shonen Jump manga, but I mean, still, like, none of it seemed, you know, impossible. And the great thing about it is that it is set in the real world. When they start doing stuff with Shonen Jump, we see, you know, this is actual Shonen Jump. You got talk about One Piece and Naruto and Dragon Ball, all this stuff going on. We hear about other mangaka, all this crazy stuff. I just love how it fits within reality so well. And the fact that this series covers so much time in these people's lives, it just makes like the character arcs and all the things that happen so much better, because we really see how much these people have grown. Because if you compare the stuff that happens in the first volume to the last volume, it is pretty crazy. Now, this series has a lot of different types of things in it. You know, there's suspenseful moments, there are sad moments, there are happy moments, there are a lot of happy moments. Oh my god, there are so many times in this series where I've just felt so happy for the characters and what's going on, because they put in so much work. They pour their heart and souls into the work that they do in this series, and then when it all pays off, you know, multiple times throughout the series, it is just amazing. However, there are of course sad moments, some depressing moments, you know, some conflicts with other characters. As with real life, there are a lot of ups and downs that these guys have to go through, and just reading it, it was absolutely amazing. Now, one of my favorite things about the series was actually learning more about how manga is created, because I'm here all day reading all this crazy manga, but I really never understood just how much work has to go into these. Like, this series really shows the process of getting a manga serialized in Shonen Jump and everything that comes afterward. Like, you'll have an editor and assistants and very, very strict deadlines. You are going to have to work your ass off. Like in the series, Takagi and Mashiro, they're working on manga together, so sort of like how Oba and Obata do it, and they still barely get any sleep. They are working overtime, always trying to meet that deadline, and it is just crazy. I have so much respect for manga artists because they are basically giving up their lives to entertain people. It's just so much work, and like I said, in this series, when all that work pays off, you just feel so good for these characters. It's absolutely amazing. Sometimes, like, I swear to God, I actually cheered a couple times reading this series. I have actually cheered. Now, I've already mentioned this in another video, but soon I'll have a spoiler discussion out so I can talk in detail about all this stuff, but I had to say the ending actually made me cry. I'm not even kidding. Like, it wasn't a big cry, but I shed tears. Like, a tear ran down my face when I finished this series, because as soon as I finished it, I just thought back to all the things that happened and everything that these characters have had to go through, and I'm just like, man, what an amazing story. So yeah, the ending was incredible. It was a perfect way to end the series. It's one of those series that, you know, didn't have to end. It could have technically kept going, but I just love the way it ended. It was perfect, and this whole series is pretty much perfect. It was so freaking good. Now, I talked a lot about the story, and now, of course, we will be getting into the characters. The two main characters, Mashiro and Takagi, are so determined. It is insane. Without spoiling too much, there is an entire volume where Mashiro shouldn't be drawing manga, but he does it anyway because of how determined he is and how much he wants to accomplish his goal. It's actually scary. Like, these guys go days without sleep when they're still in high school. Like, Mashiro be drawing manga like all throughout classes. They're basically sacrificing all of their academic potential just to do manga. Now, of course, we also have Azuki, who we really don't see that much. She talks to Mashiro, that they email each other because, you know, they don't want to go on dates and, you know, all that stuff. They're very shy, though, so they don't talk very often. We also have Miyoshi, who becomes Takagi's girlfriend very early on, and she is a main character in the series. We also have Hattori, who is their editor at Jump. I really love this guy. He was a really awesome character. And, of course, we have Mr. Eiji Nizuma. Now, this guy is kind of similar to Takagi and Mashiro. He starts drawing manga at a very young age, and he quickly becomes known as a genius. And Takagi and Mashiro see this guy as their rival, and their rivalry is one of their biggest motivations in this series, and it is absolutely brilliant. What's great about this rivalry is that Takagi, Mashiro, and Eiji, they don't hate each other at all. They're actually really good friends. In fact, the three of them, as well as a couple other manga artists, they end up forming like a group where they can, you know, review each other's work and start talking about it, how people can improve or whatever. It's just really awesome. The rivalries they have are so great because they're not like your typical Shonen Jump rivalries. Like, these guys are all actually friends, and they're motivating each other to work harder, which I just loved. Now, there are so many other characters in this series, it is pretty much impossible to talk about them all. It's actually crazy. The thing that makes it so good, though, is that I can remember every single one of those characters and what every single person was like and everything that happened to them. Like, that is how you know the series is just excellent. If there's one character that I really just didn't like how he turned out, it's Nakai. Now, this guy, he started off, you know, you kind of sympathized for him a bit, and then you ended up, like, kind of hating his guts, and yeah, nothing really happens with him. Yeah, he's kind of just there, and I kind of wish that, you know, he had gotten more redemption or whatever, or, you know, finished his story arc, but yeah. Alright, so now it is time to talk about the art, which is of course very important because it is a manga series. Now, I praised the crap out of Takeshi Obata's art before in my All You Need Is Kill and my Death Note reviews. He has such amazing art, like super detailed characters, and the backgrounds are just excellent. It's so good. Even with the covers of these manga, you can just see the detail. Like, there's like so much stuff going on in this one cover, and it's just crazy. Some of those other covers are even... Like, this guy's manga is actually insane with how well it is drawn, and of course the fact that two people are working on this series just make it so much easier for him to have amazing manga, although I know after reading this series he must have to work his ass off. So that's all I would usually say about the art. However, there are things in this series that just make me respect this guy even more. Like there are things that you just don't see in other manga, and it's actually incredible. So a lot of people create manga in Bakuman. There are a lot of manga artists going around, and oftentimes we see, you know, screenshots and pictures of these people's manga. Sometimes even like we get samples of chapters from them, and they all have different art styles. And like in real life, all these fictional mangaka have different art styles, which means that Obata would have had to come up with brand new art styles to give these fictional characters, which is pretty crazy. It's actually nuts, like the fact that he was able to do that. And probably the thing that blows my mind the most, it's pretty wacky. So I finished the 20th volume, I had my little cry, you know, whatever, and I'm like, you know, a lot of time has passed during this manga, and I never really noticed any changes in these characters, in the way they look. So I'm like, is that just because he didn't update them at all? So I go back to the first volume, and I open it up, and I'm like, oh my god, these characters look like fetuses. Oh my god, did Takeshi Obata actually make them naturally age within this manga? You know how most manga, when characters age, you know, it's like maybe after a couple year time skip, you know, their hair is longer, their boobs are bigger, you know, all that stuff. Well, while Bakuman takes place over a long period of time, there are no major time skips. Like, the time flows really naturally. And after going back to the first volume, I realized that with the flow of time, the characters age. But you know how, like, when you see someone every day, like your parents or your friends from school, like, you never really notice them age because you see them every day. And that's kind of what it felt like reading Bakuman. Like, comparing the first and last volumes, you see that these characters have aged. However, reading the series through, you don't notice it, which is actually amazing. Like, I have no idea how he was able to do that. I've never seen this in any other manga, and it was actually amazing. Like, it was so good, and it just makes me respect this guy's art even more. He is truly one of the best artists in the industry. So those were my thoughts on Bakuman. If you haven't guessed already, my final score is 5 successful manga out of 5, and yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. This series was just so phenomenal. I can see myself watching the anime for this and then going back and rereading this so many times and recommending it to everyone because it was absolutely amazing. If you are a fan of manga at all, if you just enjoy manga in general, Bakuman, you gotta read it. Because not only is it an amazing story with amazing characters and amazing art, but it really just opened my eyes to the manga industry, and it was so fascinating to see how all of this stuff gets made, and yeah, it was just so good. And I know I keep repeating myself saying how amazing it is, but it's true. So yes, you definitely should go check out Bakuman. And if you do want to pick up Bakuman, the entire series, all 20 volumes, is in print and available from Viz Media. There is also, however, a box set which comes with the entire series, an awesome poster, and of course a sample of Otter number 11. Now, getting this box set gives you a huge discount, and I cannot recommend it enough. It is definitely the best way to own this series, and yeah, you should buy it now. Like, you should be adding it to your cart and placing your order. So that concludes my review for Bakuman. I cannot express my love for this series in words. It was just so good, and read it. Just read it. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next full series review. Well, technically not full series review, but I will be treating it as such. It will be for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Phantom Blood. I will see you then.